Hi, everyone. The start of the school year is here, which means that we're introducing new students to our classrooms, but it also means that the staff of Teaching Matters has been getting ready for a new season. We're going to be talking about that today on this episode of Teaching Matters, including giving you the chance to meet some of the staff that works behind the scenes to bring you this great content.
Welcome to Teaching Matters, a podcast exploring all things teaching and learning. Teaching Matters is produced by NPR affiliate WOUB Public Media in Athens, Ohio. And here is your host, Dr. Scott Tidsworth, Dean of the Scripps College of Communication at Ohio University.
And so actually the person that you just saw in that intro video was Trinity Swede. Trinity, welcome to the Teaching Matters podcast.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here.
So you've been working as an assistant producer on the podcast for about a year now. Why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are as a student, like what year in school you are, what your major is, and some things about that. Like that.
Yeah. So I am a arts and science in the College of Arts and Sciences. My major is sociology, criminology. I'm going into my sophomore year, and I also have a certificate in forensic studies. Afterwards, I plan to go to Columbus Police Department and join ranks with them. And I've worked, like Scott said, I've worked with him on this podcast for about a year now.
I know that we'll talk about this in a minute, that you and I knew each other before you came to OU as a student, but what are some of the things that got you interested in, sort of doing work in social media and podcasting and that sort of thing?
I guess kind of just my generation. It is social media in my generation is a very huge and big thing, and if you don't have it, you're kind of seen as weird or odd, or why don't you have it? And so it's always been pretty much a lot of people's dreams. And like I said, my generation, people my age, they want to be influencers, or they want to be social media famous. They want thousands of followers. And so to be able to work on something that I think is interesting, B, with someone I've known for forever, and C, on social media doing a job, it's almost kind of like a bragging right.
There you go. So in your role, what are some of the things that you do behind the scenes that listeners of the podcast might recognize when you describe them?
Some things that I do is I run our Instagram page, which is linked to our Facebook. So those are both together, and I post our Throwback Thursdays, and we recently this summer started up on a Follow-Up Monday, which is where we look back at the people that we have previously had on our podcast, see where they are in life, and make an update on what they're doing. And we can also then bring another Throwback Thursday so that they can see where in the episode and the seasons that they came on. I also post Instagram stories. Recently just posted one today about our new season coming and doing video. Yeah.
So having done this for about a year, and the fact that this isn't directly connected to your major is sort of interesting. What are some of the skills that you think you've been able to learn and develop in this role?
Definitely communication. I would not be able to talk as well as I do and be as friendly without the other job that came with this job as an ambassador for Scripps College of Communication. So communication, I'm able to put this on a resume that I have social media experience, and it gives me new obstacles to overcome because this is something that I've never done. So recently, you had me film for the intro video, and I've never really touched a camera other than the one in my phone. Mm-hmm. So it was really, really exciting to be able to work with a camera, get those videos, learn how to share them on a computer, which I've never done before. Mm-hmm. And I know that those are skills that I would use or could use, or that will help me get a job later in the future.
Let's talk about you a little bit more personally a little bit. So you were a student that came out of a school district that's just south of Athens called Alexander High School. You also went to Athens City Schools for a few years. What were some of the things that you did while you were in, both middle school and high school that you think sort of helped you prepare, to get ready for college?
Honestly, the best thing that helped me prepare was being a student athlete because as a student athlete, you are not just about academics and you have to learn at a very young age how to balance your time between those hour away games and practice every day. And that time management all throughout high school, because in high school in the spring season, I was doing track and AAU, which is club travel basketball. And on top of that, I was also doing college classes at CCP. And so all of those, I did sports all throughout the year. So every single part of school, I was learning time management for all of my life. And so once I got to my senior year, I was able to use that time management skills to improve it even further. And now, once I got to college, I don't have a sport, so my time management is even better because I replaced my sports with my friends and
Mhm.
social time.
Do you miss sports?
Oh, absolutely. I actually basketball was my favorite sport. I played soccer, basketball, football in fifth grade, futsal, um, softball, track. I did it all because I loved physical activity and I loved being on a team. High school, I made varsity soccer and varsity basketball my freshman year, and team captain of the JV team my freshman year for basketball. And so it was always a really, really huge thing, and it was goals in mind to become better and better. And
Mhm.
then when I got here, I needed, like I said, I needed to manage my time better and go to the next step of time management. And this year, I actually signed up to play intramural rec basketball.
Oh, nice. It'll be
Yeah,
fun to see you on the court again. So, um,
absolutely.
for listeners, actually the way that we met, the first time, although I know your mom and stepdad, but I met you because you were on a basketball team that my daughter Emma and I coached, and still have very fond memories of you being in practice. And you're actually one of those athletes that would not only go through your practice, but you would help with the younger age group that would come in to the gym immediately after that. That was always a lot of fun to work with you in that capacity.
Yeah, I still cherish a lot of those memories. And eighth grade year was probably one of the best basketball years for me for coach uh, athlete relationships. Like
Hmm.
your daughter Emma, absolutely adore. Even now, saw her this summer, and I went up to her, gave her a hug, and told her I'd beat her in height.
I
You
tell
know.
everyone that Emma is what makes me famous, so I totally get that. So, hey, so you before you started full time as a college student, you mentioned that you took what you called CC plus classes, which is College Credit Plus, or essentially where high school students can take college courses that will eventually, transfer or be a part of their major. So you got sort of a head start on college. Were there still things, you've mentioned time management, but were there still things that you had to sort of figure out as you transitioned from being, a high school student to going into a college setting?
Absolutely. First things that I had to, besides time management, was also the studying. I
Hmm.
had to change my study habits because they were only a semester long and we had exams, which was completely new to me. And we had midterms, which was completely new to me. And we had accumulative final exams, which was the whole semester worth of information. And so I really had to change my study habits, my social habits. I really had to put away that time that in high school that I would have had for let me go see my friends on the weekends, let me go hang out on the weekends to I really need to study this weekend and stay inside and apologize to my friends, but they also would take time to study with me. They would tell me like it's okay. We don't have to hang out and do stuff. Let's all study together because they know I study better when I'm with people because
Hmm.
I make studying I made studying competitive too once I transitioned from high school to college.
What do you mean by that? That's an interesting word, to describe studying. What do you mean?
So I'm a person that loves high grades. I love getting on honor roll. I love getting on provost list, stuff like that. And so once I got to college, I made it competitive in a way where I saw my friend was studying, I wanted to study harder than them. If I saw my friend felt good for a test, I wanted to feel great for a test.
Hmm.
Stuff like that. And it's what helps push me and what I changed to help make me a better student here. Which is wouldn't work for everybody, but it works for me.
Yeah, but it's interesting. I remember, I think you have transitioned to college really well. Let's just say it took me a while,
Thanks.
back in the day. But when I think back on it and talk to people about it, or when I'm talking to students about how I figured out how to succeed, um, I would describe it in the same way, where I said I eventually learned how to. I think I even said attack the class, in term from an academic standpoint, like strategy and the hard work, the effort to figure out how to get the best grade possible. And I didn't know how to do that, my first couple of years, and then eventually I sort of figured it out. So I think it's an interesting choice of language, but underneath that language is a student being able to figure out how to really maximize and be efficient in the way that they learn information and do well in a class. I mean, it takes work to figure out how to do that. So I think that's really cool. Um,
Thank you.
so when you're thinking about your role as a student, you talked about the fact that you work hard when you study. Are there certain strategies that you find for you personally are more effective when you're trying to study for a class? Like what's your approach when you're getting ready for doing well on a test, or doing an assignment in a class?
My approach usually is a rule of three. So I will have a written note of it, and then I'll try to memorize what I had and onto a computer. And then under what I thought I memorized, I'll put the actual thing. And then usually I'll do an index card too for studying. And this is usually just for big exams, not
Okay.
every little thing. But I do a rule of three for myself. And then also music, have to do music. Usually I'll do instrumental pop music. So
Mm.
it's not exactly the classical, but it still helps me keep focused without the words. My mom always tells me to do 30 minutes on, 10 minutes off too
Mm.
for so 30 minutes of hard studying, no phone in sight. 10 minutes go on Instagram, go do your bathroom break, go get a coffee, something like that. And then also, like I said, with the competitiveness, I will bring group studies with me
Mhm.
because I'm the type of person that if it's dead quiet, I can't really study because it's the quiet is distracting to me. But if I have other people talking and stuff, it's that competitiveness kicks in and it's, oh,
Mhm.
I don't want to be like them. I want to keep studying. I want to study harder.
Yeah. When you're with your friends, I'm assuming that you're studying for different classes. Do you ever study with students that are in the same class as you?
Oh, absolutely. Especially last year, since we had that LC group, that was
And
very,
that
very
that's
helpful
learning
for me.
community group, right?
Correct, yes. I had a group of three girls that any exam we had, because we had the three classes all together. Any exam we had, we would go to Baker, get a conference room, and we would study. And we were able to ask each other questions and able to give each other like the index cards I could give to my friend to have me her test me. And with students that weren't or my friends that weren't in my major, a couple of them might have still had classes for the gen eds that I took last year. So we were able to work, bounce ideas at least off of one class or something.
So let's switch gears a little bit. So we've been working, together over the summer, getting ready for the new season of Teaching Matters. And obviously, the biggest change that we have is that we're expanding to YouTube and then including an option for people to be able to watch it on YouTube in addition to still having the same options of listening to it on podcasting platforms. I'm excited about that. I know you are too. We've both been working over the summer trying to figure out how to best do this. It was a new opportunity and a stretch for us, but I think that it's going to be cool to be able to have that new platform to put the podcasts out on. When we're you've one of the things that you've done is that you sort of interacted with guests and doing background research. Are there any guests from last season that sticks out to you as something that you just thought was a great episode or that you really enjoyed doing research on?
I don't remember the name, but it was the one about the school alert
Hmm.
system when she actually had an alert go off in the middle of the podcast. I thought not only was that a great idea, especially in today's world and making people feel safer, but also just a great idea in general because, we do need to protect those students, and seeing that too work in progress on the podcast was awesome. And I'd like to see if she's made any like further updates or more programs for school
Yeah.
safety.
Yeah, that was definitely an interesting episode. If you are watching or listening and you didn't have it listened to that episode, we were talking with I think it was an assistant superintendent. I'm having trouble remembering her name now as well, Trinity. But while the podcast was going on, she literally had an alert go off as we were recording. So we got to hear her go through the process of tracking down what was happening, while we were doing the podcast, which, it ended up not being, it was a test rather than an actual emergency, but it was really fascinating to sort of experience that. Well, I guess the last thing that we should point out to people that are watching or listening to this is that if they are interested in being a guest on the podcast, they can email us at teachingmatterspodcast, all one word, all lowercase, at ohio.edu. And now that we're new in video, we'll try to put that up on the screen so that they can actually see that, right? Well, listen, Trinity, thanks for all the work that you do, and
Of course.
and looking forward again to working with you this year on it. And I hope that as we start taping new episodes for the new season, that I know we're going to have a lot of great guests and a lot of great discussions. And thanks for all the
Oh,
work that you do that
absolutely.
helps get it out to people.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And thank
Absolutely.
you for having me on here and being such a great boss.
Well, I mean, this is the fun part of my job. So getting to work with, people like you and the others that are on the podcast, and then getting to meet the people that are guests on the podcast is really an enjoyable experience for me. Thanks for tuning in. If you do have suggestions or if you want to contact us, you can do so through the social media platforms that we have. Obviously, Trinity will be one of the people that might be responding to you if you direct messages on one of those. Or you can email us, as I said, at teachingmatterspodcast@ohio.edu. Thanks for listening, and we'll tune in, and we hope you tune in for the next episode that comes out.